They didn't just touch my things, they erased me, not loudly, not angrily, not even openly, they did it quietly like I never existed. And the scariest part? They thought I would never find out. They thought I would come back tired, distracted, unaware, smile, adjust, and move on like nothing ever happened. But they were wrong, very wrong. Because what they didn't know was, the version of me that left is not the same one that came back. Let me take you back for a second. Before all of this, before the silence, before the betrayal, before everything changed, I left with trust, with peace in my heart, with the belief that my space, my people, my life would still be mine when I returned. I wasn't running away, that I was growing, trying to become better, stronger, clearer. You know that phase in life when you step away from everything to fix yourself, to build yourself, to breathe? That's where I was. No drama, no conflict, just distance and trust. And maybe that was my mistake. Trusting too easily, believing too deeply, thinking that loyalty works both ways. But life has a strange way of teaching you lessons, not through words but through moments that shake you. And this moment, it didn't just shake me, it changed me. The day I came back, everything felt off. Not in an obvious way. There were no broken doors, no signs of force, no chaos. Just absence. The kind of absence that doesn't scream but whispers. I walked in slowly, looking around, trying to understand what exactly felt wrong. At first glance, everything looked normal. But something inside me kept saying, this isn't right. You ever had that feeling, where your gut is screaming but your mind is trying to calm it down? Relax, maybe you're overthinking. Maybe you forgot something. Maybe it's nothing. But deep down, you know. So I started checking small things first, simple things, things no one else would notice. And that's when I saw it. Something was missing. Not valuable. Not expensive, but mine. I paused. Tried to remember where I last kept it. Replayed memories in my head. Searched again. Nothing. Then another thing, gone. Then another. And suddenly it wasn't random anymore. It was a pattern. That moment, that exact moment, everything inside me went silent. No panic, no shouting, no immediate reaction. Just stillness. Because when the truth hits you like that, you don't explode, you freeze. And in that silence, one thought slowly formed in my mind. This was done on purpose. Not misplaced, not lost, not accidental. Deliberate. And that realization, it hits deeper than anger. Because anger is loud. But betrayal is quiet. Heavy, slow. It sits inside your chest and starts connecting dots you never wanted to connect. Faces, conversations, moments. Everything starts making sense, in the worst possible way. I stood there, looking at a place that used to feel like home, and for the first time it felt unfamiliar. Like I didn't belong there anymore. And that's a different kind of pain. Not losing things but losing your place, your space, your sense of belonging. Because things can be replaced. Money can be earned again. But that feeling of being silently removed, that stays. I could feel the anger building, slowly, steadily. Questions started rising in my mind. Who did this? Why would they do this? How long has this been happening? But the biggest question of all was, how did I not see this coming? And that question, it hurts the most. Because it makes you doubt yourself, your judgment, your trust. You start thinking, was I blind? Did I ignore the signs? Was I too comfortable? And the truth is, sometimes yes. We ignore small red flags. We excuse small behaviors. We trust people just because we want to believe in them. And slowly those small things turn into something bigger, something real, something painful. I walked further inside, trying to stay calm, trying to stay in control. But inside everything was shifting. Because I realized something very important in that moment. This wasn't just about missing things. This was about disrespect. About boundaries being crossed. About someone thinking, they won't notice. They won't do anything. They're not strong enough. And that changes everything. Because the moment someone underestimates you, they reveal their true position in your life. Not as allies, not as supporters, but as people who were waiting for an opportunity. And they found it the moment you stepped away. That realization hit hard. But it also did something powerful. It woke me up. Completely. No more assumptions, no more blind trust, and no more emotional decisions. Just clarity, pure, sharp clarity. And in that moment, I had a choice. React. Emotionally create chaos, confront immediately, or stay silent. Observe. Understand everything first. And that choice, that decision, it changed the entire story. Because most people lose their power right here. At the moment of pain. At the moment of betrayal. They react, they explode, they give away their control. But I didn't. I took a breath, stepped back, and chose something different. I chose silence. Not because I was weak, but because I was about to become dangerous. Because silence is where real power starts building. And trust me, what happened next, they never saw coming. They thought I would react. Honestly, they were waiting for it. Waiting for me to lose control, to raise my voice, to question everything immediately, because that's what most people do. They react first and think later. But I didn't give them that. Not even a single word. And that's where the real shift began. Instead of reacting, I started observing. Not casually, not emotionally, but carefully, deeply. Because when something feels off, there's always more beneath the surface, always. I slowed everything down. My movements, my thoughts, even my expressions. On the outside, I looked normal, calm, unbothered. But inside, I was connecting dots. Every small detail started to matter. The way people looked at me, the way they avoided certain topics, the way their tone changed, things I would have ignored before now stood out clearly. And the more I observed, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about missing things. This was a setup. Slow, quiet, calculated setup. You ever realize something so heavy that your entire perspective shifts in seconds? That's what happened to me. Because suddenly past moments started replaying in my mind. Conversations that felt normal at the time now sounded different. Little jokes, hidden comments, subtle behavior changes. It all started making sense in a way I never wanted it to. And that's the thing about truth. It doesn't arrive all at once. It reveals itself piece by piece. Until you can't ignore it anymore. I noticed how certain questions were asked before I left. What's your plan? How long will you be gone? Are you taking everything with you? At that time it felt like concern, now it felt like preparation. And that realization, it hit harder than anything else. Because it meant one thing: this didn't start when I left. It started long before. They were just waiting for the right moment. And I unknowingly gave it to them. For a second I felt anger rising again, stronger this time, more intense. Because now it wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. But again I controlled it. Because reacting now would ruin everything. See, when someone plans against you, they expect you to act emotionally, they depend on it. Because emotions make you predictable, and predictable people are easy to control. But I refused to be predictable. So instead of confronting anyone, I started studying them. Their routines, their patterns, their comfort zones. Who talks to whom, who avoids eye contact, who acts too normal. Because sometimes, the person acting the most normal is hiding the most. Days passed, and with every passing day my understanding grew deeper. And then, I noticed something crucial. They weren't nervous, they weren't worried, they weren't even careful anymore. They were comfortable. Too comfortable. That's when I realized they truly believed I didn't know. And that gave me an advantage, a powerful one. Because nothing is more dangerous than someone who knows the truth but pretends not to. From that moment on, I stopped being the victim. I became the observer. And everything changed. I started asking small, casual questions, not directly, not aggressively, just enough to test reactions. And their answers, they didn't match. Different versions of the same story, different tones, different pauses. And those small inconsistencies, they confirmed everything. Now I wasn't guessing anymore. I knew. But here's where it gets interesting. Knowing the truth is one thing, using it is another. Most people at this point explode, expose everything, end relationships instantly. But I didn't. Because I wasn't playing for a reaction that I was playing for control. And control requires patience. So instead of ending things quickly, I let it continue. Not out of weakness, but out of awareness. Because the longer they believed I didn't know, the more they revealed. And trust me, they revealed everything. Their mindset, their intentions, their real nature. Things I would have never seen if I had reacted early. That's the hidden advantage of silence. It gives people space to show you who they really are. And once they do, you don't need proof. You don't need explanations. You don't need closure. You have clarity. And clarity, that's power. At this point, something inside me shifted completely. The anger, it started fading. Not because the situation got better, but because I got stronger. Emotionally detached, mentally focused. I stopped asking, why did they do this? And started asking, what do I do next? And that question, that's where growth begins. Because the moment you stop focusing on others and start focusing on your next move, you take your power back. Completely. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was aware. And awareness changes everything. Because now I wasn't reacting to the situation, that I was preparing beyond it. Quietly, strategically, patiently. And deep down, I knew something they didn't. They thought the game was over. But in reality, the real game had just begun. While they were busy living, normally laughing, talking, moving on like nothing happened, I was changing, not suddenly, not dramatically, but deeply. Because once you see the truth, you can't go back to who you were before. And I didn't want to go back. Not after what I had understood, not after what I had seen. Something inside me had switched completely. I stopped focusing on what they took, because the more I thought about it, the more I realized, it wasn't about the things. It was never about the things. It was about value, respect, position. And once those are touched, everything changes. So instead of chasing what was lost, I started building what couldn't be taken again. My mindset. My discipline. My awareness. Because material things, they can disappear. But a strong mind, that's untouchable. And that's where my real journey began. I created distance. Not physically, but mentally. I was there, but I wasn't involved anymore. Conversations became shorter. Reactions became controlled. Emotions became filtered. I stopped explaining myself, stopped engaging unnecessarily, stopped giving energy where it wasn't respected. And slowly they started noticing. Not openly, but subtly. The way I spoke less, the way I reacted less, the way I observed more. Because when you change internally, people feel it externally. And that made them uncomfortable. Because they were used to the old version of me, the one who trusted easily. The one who didn't question much. The one who was predictable. But now I wasn't predictable anymore. And that's when the real shift happens. When people can't read you anymore, they start questioning themselves. Meanwhile, my focus was getting sharper. I started using my time differently. My energy differently. My thoughts differently. No distractions. No unnecessary conversations. No emotional decisions. Just growth. Pure focus growth. I started learning, not just skills but people, behavior, patterns. Because once you understand how people think, you stop getting surprised by their actions. And that's powerful. Days passed, then weeks. And with every passing day, I felt something new building inside me. Confidence. Not loud confidence. Not arrogant confidence. Calm confidence. The kind that doesn't need validation, the kind that doesn't seek attention. The kind that knows its worth, knows its direction, knows its next move. And the more I built that, the less I cared about what happened before. Not because it didn't matter, but because I had outgrown it. That's the thing about growth. It doesn't erase your past. It just makes it smaller. Less important, less powerful. And slowly I started seeing everything differently. What once felt like betrayal now felt like a lesson. What once felt like loss now felt like exposure. Because they didn't take from me, they revealed themselves to me. Completely. And that clarity, that's priceless. Because now, I knew exactly who I was dealing with. No confusion, no doubt, no illusions. And when you reach that level of clarity, you stop making emotional mistakes. You stop trusting blindly, you stop reacting instantly, you stop giving people access they haven't earned. And that changes your entire life. But here's where things got even more interesting. As I grew, as I evolved, as I became more controlled, they became more careless. Small slips started happening. Unnecessary comments, confident behaviors, moments where they forgot to act. Because comfort creates mistakes. And they were too comfortable. They thought the situation was over. That I had accepted everything, that I had moved on without noticing. But in reality, I was watching everything more closely than ever. And every small mistake they made only strengthened my understanding. At this point, I wasn't guessing, that I wasn't assuming, that I wasn't confused. I was certain. And certainty? That's dangerous. Because now I wasn't reacting based on emotion, that I was preparing based on truth. And preparation. That's where real power builds. I started planning. Not revenge, not confrontation. But elevation. Because I realized something very important: the best way to win is not to fight, it's to rise so high that the situation can't reach you anymore. And that became my focus. Every day I worked on becoming better, stronger, sharper, more aware. Not for them, not to prove anything, but for me. Because once you start doing things for yourself, everything becomes different. Your energy changes. Your mindset shifts. Your standards rise. And suddenly, you're not the same person anymore. And that's exactly what was happening. I wasn't who I used to be, not even close. And deep down, I knew something big was coming. Not because of luck. Not because of timing. But because I had changed. Completely. And when you change like that, life responds differently, people respond differently, situations respond differently. And the best part, they still had no idea. They were dealing with a version of me that no longer existed. And that's where the real advantage begins. Because when people underestimate you while you're upgrading yourself, they lose before the game even starts. And trust me, what was about to happen next, they weren't ready for it. Not even close. And then the moment came, not announced, not planned loudly, not dramatic, just inevitable. Because when you've been preparing in silence for so long, there comes a point where you don't need more time, you just need to step forward. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't wake up that day feeling nervous, that I didn't feel angry, that I didn't even feel excited. I felt ready. A different kind of ready. The kind that comes after you've questioned everything, understood everything, and rebuilt yourself from the inside. I walked in the same place, the same walls, the same environment. But this time, nothing felt the same. Because I wasn't the same. And when you change internally, the world around you starts feeling smaller. Less intimidating, less important. I didn't rush, didn't try to take control of the situation, didn't try to prove anything. I just existed. Calm. Composed. Present. And that alone started shifting everything. You see, people expect reactions, they expect energy, they expect you to come back with questions, anger, emotions. But when you come back with silence, with control, with a completely different presence, it confuses them. And confusion breaks confidence. I could see it in their eyes, in their body language, in their tone. Something wasn't matching for them. Because they were prepared for the old version of me. The one who would react. The one who would ask. The one who would try to understand. But that version didn't exist anymore. So instead of controlling the situation, they started losing control of themselves. Small signs at first. Unnecessary explanations, random justifications, defensive tones without even being questioned. And that's when you know pressure has started. Because when someone starts explaining things you didn't even ask about, they're not talking to you, they're reacting to their own guilt. And I didn't interrupt. Didn't challenge. Didn't confront. I let it flow. Because silence at the right time is more powerful than any argument. I moved through everything slowly, observing, absorbing, confirming everything I already knew. And the more I stayed calm, the more uncomfortable they became. Because calmness in a situation where chaos is expected feels unnatural. It feels threatening, and that's exactly what was happening. They started watching me differently, more carefully, more cautiously. Trying to figure out, what does he know? What has he understood? Why isn't he reacting? And that curiosity, that fear, that uncertainty, that was my control. Because now the power had shifted completely. Before, they had the advantage of assumption. They believed I didn't know. Now, they were unsure, and uncertainty is the biggest weakness. I didn't need to expose anything. Didn't need to prove anything. Their own behavior was exposing everything. And that's the beauty of growth. You don't chase truth anymore. Truth reveals itself around you. At one point, I caught a moment. A small one. But powerful. Two people talking quietly, stopping the moment I entered. A quick glance. A sudden silence. And for a second our eyes met. That moment said everything. No words needed. No confrontation required. Just awareness, pure awareness. And in that moment I realized something very important. They knew. Not everything, but enough. Enough to feel the shift. Enough to sense the difference. Enough to understand something had changed. And they were right. Everything had changed. Because I wasn't there to take back what was lost. I was there as someone who had already moved beyond it. And that energy, it's impossible to ignore. I continued acting normal, calm, unbothered. But internally, I was completely detached. No emotional connection. No expectations. No trust left. Just clarity. And when you operate from clarity, you don't make mistakes. You don't overshare. You don't overreact. You don't lose control. You simply move strategically. That's when I made my next decision. Not to confront. Not to argue. But to step into a position where none of this would ever affect me again. Because real power isn't fixing situations. It's outgrowing them completely. And that's exactly what I was about to do. At this point, I wasn't playing their game anymore. I was creating my own. A game where I didn't need approval. Didn't need validation. Didn't need permission. Just direction. And the moment you reach that stage, you become unstoppable. Because now nothing they do can touch you. Not emotionally, not mentally, not even strategically. And that's the real comeback. Not noise, not revenge, but elevation. And trust me, what was about to happen next wasn't just a comeback. It was a complete shift of power. They thought the story ended the day they erased me. But the truth, that was the day my real story began. By now everything was clear. No confusion. No doubts. No unanswered questions. I knew who they were. I knew what they did. I knew how it happened. And most importantly, I knew who I had become. And that changed everything. Because at some point you stop asking for explanations, you stop looking for apologies, you stop expecting people to fix what they broke. Not because it didn't matter, but because you've outgrown the need for it. And that's where I was. Standing in the same place but no longer connected to it. I looked around one last time, not with anger, not with pain, but with clarity. Because now I could see everything exactly as it was. No emotions distorting it. No attachment blinding it. Just truth. And that truth was simple. This place, these people, this situation was never meant to define me. It was only meant to reveal me. And once that purpose was complete, there was nothing left to hold on to. So I didn't confront them. Didn't expose them. Didn't create a scene. Because I realized something most people never understand. Closure doesn't come from others. It comes from within. You don't need someone to admit their mistakes to move forward. You don't need justice to find peace. You don't need revenge to win. Because real winning, it's internal. It's the moment you stop being affected by what once had power over you. And I had reached that point. Completely. I made my move, quietly, decisively. Not backwards, not sideways, forward, into a life where none of this mattered anymore. And that's the part people don't see. They think comeback means returning to the same place and proving something. But real comeback, it's leaving that place behind completely. Becoming so strong that you don't even need to go back. Because you've built something better, something bigger, something untouchable. Days later, I heard things, small things, whispers, questions. Where did he go? What is he doing now? Why didn't he say anything? And I smiled, not out of pride, not out of ego, but out of understanding. Because now they were the ones confused, they were the ones questioning, they were the ones trying to understand a story they thought they had already finished. But they were too late. Because while they were busy planning against me, I was planning beyond them. And that's the difference. You see, most people focus on revenge, they focus on exposing, they focus on getting even. But the real power move is elevation. Because when you rise high enough, you don't need to fight anyone. They can't even reach you. And that's exactly what happened. I didn't destroy their plan, that I didn't erase their actions. I simply outgrew them. And when you outgrow something, it loses all power over you. Completely. Looking back now, I don't feel anger, that I don't feel pain. I feel gratitude. Because that moment, that betrayal, that silent removal, it forced me to become someone I would have never become otherwise. More aware, more disciplined, more controlled, unshakable. And that's the real win. Not getting back what was lost, but becoming someone who can never be placed in that position again. So if you're listening to this right now, and you're going through something similar, if someone has underestimated you, if someone has removed you quietly, if someone thinks you won't notice, listen carefully. Don't react immediately, don't waste your energy proving anything, don't lower yourself to their level. Instead, upgrade yourself beyond their reach. Because the moment you do that, everything changes. Your mindset, your standards, your entire life. And one day you'll look back at this moment, not as pain but as a turning point. The moment you stopped being naive and started being powerful. The moment you stopped reacting and started building. The moment you stopped chasing validation and started creating value. And that moment, that's where your real life begins. So take your time, stay silent when needed. Move with intention. And remember, not every loss is a loss. Some losses are upgrades in disguise. And when your time comes, you won't need to announce your comeback. Your life will do it for you. If you've watched this entire story till the end, then you're no longer just a viewer. You've become part of this journey. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment saying, "I don't chase, I attract." Share this video with those who are going through silent struggles in life. And always remember, no one can erase you. Unless you forget your own worth, stay focused, stay strong, stay unstoppable. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep rising.